Today, what I'd like to do is really just continue what we were doing last week together, just to keep helping you with this particular assignment on the connector words, and then also next week, Lord willing, start working on the block diagram for 2 Timothy. So today, what I wanted to do was just keep going ahead on looking at connector words and doing the connector words assignment for our for this module, which is for doing the whole book of 2 Timothy, the whole letter. And last session we got through chapter 1, verses 1 through 9 of 2 Timothy. And so what I wanted to do this week was just pick it up from there. Let us just briefly remind ourselves. Oh, and I should put this. I forgot to copy this, and so give me a moment. I'm going to copy this, put it on the right, just so that we have it for our bear with me for one moment. Okay, and let me do this. Okay. Okay. All right. So here I've showing you on your screen here, just the procedure. Again, is we want to identify each connector word. And remember, the connector words are the conjunctions, prepositions, relative pronouns, and participles. And how we were doing this last week, and I want to continue this this morning, today, is to just highlight, we're going to identify each connector word as to which kind it is. So we want to identify whether it's a conjunction or a preposition or a relative pronoun or a participle, and doing that in two ways. One, by the color, so different colors for each one, and then secondly, putting above it a code, CO for conjunction, PR for preposition, RP for relative pronoun, and then PA for participle. So you'll be doing this. I'd like you to do this for your assignment as well, and just follow this same procedure. Now, I did also ask you to note any infinitives, just so that you can be practicing identifying them. Remember, infinitives, for the most part, do not act like connector words. Once in a while they do, but for the most part, they don't. But you need to be able to see them. And again, remember, an infinitive is the preposition to plus a verb. It's followed by a verb. So when you see the word to, T-O, look to find the word that follows it. If it's a noun, then you've got a preposition. You have a connector word. But if it's a verb, to plus a verb, you've got an infinitive, which is probably not a connector word. So you want to be able to take note of that. Okay? So let me do the full screen. All right. So on the right here, we'll have the procedure that I want us to use. On the left will be the passage itself. All right. Can all of you see that on your screen? Is it large enough to see the Bible text? All right. I'll try to make it a little bigger. Okay. Okay. So we're going to follow the procedure we did last week, which is I'll ask you to read. I'll pick someone to read the verse. I'll give you a verse to read, and then you can look at it for a moment, and then I would like you to try to identify all the connector words that you see. Okay? So with that, let me ask James to start us off. I know you're excited to do this, James, so I want to give you the chance to start our session today, okay? See, I knew you're excited. You're already smiling. So go ahead and read verse 10, and then I'll let you take a look at it for a minute, and then try to identify the connector words, and we'll help you out. Just do your best, okay?
Okay. Verse 10. But now has been manifested by the appearing of our Savior Christ Jesus, who abolished death and brought life and immortality to light through the gospel.
All right, so take a
First,
look again. Yes?
But.
Okay, but.
All
right, and what kind of connector word is but?
No,
you were right. Your first impulse. Conjunction, yes. What kind? Your subordinate or coordinate?
Subordinate.
Take a look over to the right where we have the. Notice it's under envoy. Yeah, it's a coordinating conjunction. Okay. All right. What's the next connector word that you see?
Appearing.
Okay, so we have this word appearing. What does it look like? What kind of connector word does it look like?
It's not. What is that?
Yeah.
Participles.
It looks like a participle, right? Because it ends in ing, so we can identify it. But remember, now we want to check. Is it a participle? How do we check? Remember, we want to look for, first, let's look for an article in front of it. Is there an article in front of this? Remember, articles are the, a, or an. What's the word in front of appearing here?
Yeah,
that's an article. And let's remember, if there's an article in front of a word, the word that it is in front of is a noun. Articles only identify nouns. All right, so that means appearing has to be a noun in this case. So it's not a participle, and this is what makes the participle so challenging to identify. In this case, it's a gerund. Okay, so it is not a connector word. It's not a participle. How do we know? Because the article in front of it, the, tells us appearing here is acting like a noun. All right. So what we want to look for when you see that ing word with the verb there, you want to say, okay, that looks like a participle. But first, do a couple of checks. Check to see if there's an article in front, the, an, or a. If there is, then it's a noun. If there's not, then say, okay, then look for, is there a verb of being in front of the word? Is, be, am, were. If there is, then the word is acting like a regular verb. So if it had said has now been manifested and is appearing, in that case, it would be a regular verb, not a participle. All right, so look for those things first to confirm if it's a participle or not. So in this case, because of the article, we would say, no, not a participle. It's not a connector word. It's acting like a noun here. And again, we curse the English language for being so complicated, but that is what it is. So, of course, I'm joking, but this is just one of the challenges that we have to face. So in this case, appearing is not a participle. Does that make sense, guys? Do you have any questions on that? Okay. Okay, so keep going here, James. What else? Do you see any other connector words?
Of?
Yes. What kind is that?
Preposition.
Very good.
Preposition.
Yes. So I'll highlight it in yellow, and I will put above it PR for preposition. And this is what you're going to be doing on your assignment. Okay, good. Do you see any others in verse 11?
Who?
Yes. Who? Where
Who?
is it? Who? And what is who?
Relative pronouns.
Very good. It's a relative pronoun.
And.
So we will highlight it. I'll highlight it in gray, and above it, I will put RP for relative pronoun. Excellent. Very good. Remember, relative pronouns introduce a dependent clause. Okay, so who abolished death? Okay, so that's a dependent clause modifying Jesus. Jesus, who abolished death. So when you diagram it, who abolished death will go under Jesus. Okay, just as a, okay, next one, James?
And.
Yes. What kind of connector word is and here?
Conjunction.
Yes. And what kind is it?
That's
It's part of and boy,
and.
coordinating. Okay. Any others?
Another and.
Yep, another and. So we have another coordinating conjunction here. So I'll put CO for conjunction. Very good. Any others? Sorry, to or through? Through?
Through.
Yeah. What kind of connector word is through here?
Conjunction.
Okay. Look at what follows it. We have a noun through the gospel. So remember, if you think it's a conjunction, let's say, okay, I think it's a conjunction, but let's look over here. Look at our conjunction list. Notice we don't see it on the list. Now, it still could be a conjunction, but here's the thing. If it is a conjunction, it's not coordinating, because notice and boy, right? Through is not one of those. So if it is a conjunction, it would be subordinating. If it's subordinating, that means a clause has to follow it. All right, that's how subordinating conjunctions always are followed by a clause, a dependent clause. Now, in this case, when I look at what follows it, I just see through the gospel, and that's it. Okay, because again, notice there's for here. For is another connector word. So through the gospel is it. Now, is through the gospel a phrase or a clause?
Clause.
It is a clause. Excellent. There's no verb here. So through must be a preposition. Okay, because prepositions are followed by phrases or nouns in this case. Conjunctions, subordinating conjunctions are followed by clauses. Coordinating conjunctions can be followed by anything because all they do is they connect grammatically equal words, phrases, or ideas. But a subordinating conjunction is followed by a clause, and that subordinating conjunction is modifying some other word in the sentence. Okay, so this is a connector word, but it is a preposition in this case. All right. Very good, James. Do you see any others in verse 10?
What about abolish a certain?
Abolished.
Abolish.
Okay. Yes, now that ends with an ed, so that could be a participle. So we'll highlight it in purple. And now let's test it. Okay. We don't see an article in front of it, right? We don't see a verb of being in front of it. But we do see who. That is the subject here. Who abolished? So in this case, abolished is acting like a regular verb.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and it's ends in ed, telling us it's a regular verb in the past tense. Okay.
It could be, sir, another proposition.
Okay. By, yes. By is a preposition in this case. Up here at the beginning of verse 10. So we'll note that. And I see one more preposition in this verse. Two. Yeah, there it is. Two. It's followed by a noun in this case. So this is a preposition.
Mm.
All right, that's it. We got them all. Now, now you might have noticed manifested. So hey, there's a verb ending in ed. Is that a participle? Well, look in front of it. Notice there is the verb of being, been. So that tells us no. Manifested here is acting like a regular verb, and it's just past tense. All right. Very good. Very good. Okay. Let me ask Brother Alex. I'm going to give you verse 11. I'll give you a nice short verse here, being nice. Go ahead and read verse 11 and then
Very nice.
take a look.
Nice verse. For which I was appointed a preacher and an apostle and a teacher. Amen. 4.
Okay, good.
First one is 4. Preposition in which.
Yeah, what is which?
Which relative pronoun?
Yes, you're right. Because remember, relative pronouns over here are just who, which, and sometimes that. So those are pretty easy to spot.
Appointed.
Relative pronoun. Okay, very good. Any others?
The two ends.
Yes. What are those? What kind of connector?
And after a person.
Yeah. What kind of connector word are those?
Conjunction.
Yes, good. What kind?
Coordinating.
Yep. Notice again, if you guys can just remember and boy over here, those 5.
Coordinate.
All right, we see there coordinating. Okay, and in this case, they're connecting just the noun, preacher, apostle, teacher. Okay. Now, you may have noticed, oh, wait, I see appointed here. Maybe that's a participle.
Yeah,
well,
appointed.
What's the test? What's in front of it?
Participle.
Okay, it might be, but let's test it. What's in front of, what's right before it?
Noun.
Yeah.
Verb of being.
Verb of being. So that's a nope. This is not.
Yes.
This is not a. There's a verb of being and a subject. So that's telling us nope. This is just a regular verb. Okay, so just keep applying those tests. And again, if it's an ed ending, that means if it's a verb with an ed ending, that's just saying, oops. Uh-oh, what happened here? That's just telling us, oh, this is just a past tense action here. Okay. Great job, Alex. Okay, I don't see any others there. All right, Kazot, you're going to get a fun one here. Verse 12.
Verse 12. For this reason, I also suffer these things, but I am not ashamed, for I know whom I have believed, and I am convinced
Thanks for being nice.
that he is able to guard what I have entrusted to him until that day. First 4, preposition.
Okay, now, here's one of those special cases. For this reason, actually, goes together as a conjunction. Okay?
It's
just it's an English idiom. It means the same thing as like therefore, or as a result, or because of this. So for this reason, we would take all
It's a
together.
conjunction.
Yeah, subordinating conjunction. Because notice it is followed by a clause. All right.
Okay,
So,
Pastor Tim.
all right.
Got it.
Good. All right. What's you see any more?
But
Yep. What kind is that?
coordinating conjunction.
Very good. So we will highlight in blue. All right, good. You see any more?
For preposition for I know.
Okay. Now, it looks like preposition. And notice what follows. I know. Is that a clause or a phrase?
Closer.
It's a clause. I
It is.
know.
I is subject, know is a verb. So in this case, for is acting like a subordinating conjunction. Now, when you're diagramming, it won't matter if you didn't notice that. If you just thought it was a preposition, it'll be okay. You'll still diagram it the same way. All right. It's still a connector word. It's still a modifier, so it's going to modify something else in the sentence. But I just wanted you to be aware that's not followed by a noun. I know is a clause. It's not followed by a phrase. If it was followed by a phrase, then we could say preposition, but it's followed by a clause. Therefore, technically, it is acting like a subordinating conjunction. All right, let's keep going. You see any more?
Whom?
Yes. What is that?
Relative pronoun.
Very good. So I'll highlight that in gray.
And
And
I am convinced.
what is that?
Coordinating conjunction. Coordinating
Coordinating
conjunction.
conjunction. Yep, one of the and boys. And the word and is probably, I think it's the most common word. It's the most common connector word you're going to see. So, all right. And notice here, just to point this out, it's connecting two clauses. I have believed and I am convinced. Those are two dependent clauses. How do I know they're dependent? They're followed by a relative pronoun. Okay, I know whom I have believed and am convinced he's able to. So I know and I am convinced. That's what it's connecting. All right. Any more, Kazot?
What? Oh. Two.
Two.
Yeah.
Okay, what does that look like?
Looks a preposition.
Okay, so let's test it. Since it's the word
Yeah.
two, we want to make sure to test it. What follows it, a noun or a verb?
It is a verb.
Verb.
In this case, it's a verb. It's one of those words. Guard could be a noun or a verb, but here it's acting like
Verb.
a verb. To guard what I've entrusted. He's not talking about a guard, a person. He's talking about guard, the action. So in this case, it is not a preposition. It is an infinitive.
Infinitives.
Yeah. So we'll just take note of that. Okay. Any others in this verse?
To him. To.
Yeah, two. Now here we say, okay, what follows it? The word him. Is him a verb or a noun?
Pronoun.
Yeah, it's a pronoun. It's a noun. So yeah, to is a preposition here. Very good. Any others?
Until.
Until. And what is that? What kind of connector word?
Preposition.
Yes, preposition. Again, notice it's followed by
Followed by
phrase.
now.
Yeah, that day.
That day.
It's a phrase, so it's preposition.
Phrase.
Now, okay, now there's a couple, notice here, couple of things. I am not ashamed, that ends with an ED. I have believed, ends with an ED. I am convinced, ends with an ED. Notice here, all of them have a verb of being in front of it. I am not ashamed, I have believed, I am convinced. These are all regular verbs. They're not participles. And notice as well, we have that tricky English word that. All right. Sometimes it makes an appearance, and let me highlight it in,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, this color. You can't see that very well. It's making an appearance that he is able, and then whom I have entrusted until that day. You say, well, wait a minute, is this a relative pronoun? What, or is it a conjunction? Well, let's check. I am convinced that he is able. Okay, if this were a relative pronoun, I could put the word, remember the test is put which in and see if it makes sense.
Yes.
I am convinced which he is able to guard. Does that make sense?
No.
No. So it's not a relative pronoun. Then we think, well, maybe it's a subordinating conjunction. Well, in this case, it's introducing, it's what I am convinced of. So it's not modifying something. I am convinced that it is the object. This is the object of convinced in this case, what I've highlighted here. So sometimes that acts like a direct object. We call it marker, meaning it's marking, it's identifying to us, it's opening up a direct object clause. And again, I'm sorry, this is getting into more technical details regarding prepositions, but grammar. But I just want you to be aware that that is just a tricky word that we have to be aware of. Notice there's a second use of that, a second that here, until that day. And in this case, it is actually modifying day. It's telling us a particular day, that day. So it's not a connector word here. It's actually an adjective modifying day. It's a particular day, a specific day. It is that day. All right. So it's not a connector word in that case. All right. As I've mentioned before, there's a couple of English words that can behave very differently. We have the word for. For can act in different ways. We've seen talked about that example already here. I'll just bring it up again because I think it's always helpful to. So the word for can act like a conjunction, a subordinating conjunction, or a preposition. So can be a subordinating conjunction, or it can be an adverb. He is so happy. Why are you so hungry? All right, that's an adverb. It's not a conjunction. Or the word that, and the word that is really, a challenging word. It can be a relative pronoun. It can be a subordinating conjunction. It can be a demonstrative pronoun. Why did you tell me that? Or I am convinced that. It can be an object marker, direct object marker. It can be an adjective, like we just saw, that day, that man. I am that preacher. So the word that's probably the most versatile, I think, as I think about it. So that when you see the word that, and also it can be part of a, it can also be, a part of so that, which is a conjunction. as well. All right, so when you see the word that, you need to tell yourself, okay, I got to be careful with this one. It could be a connector word, but it might not be. So, unfortunately, one more detail. Ah, Pastor Arn, welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Pastor.
Good morning. We are discussing your favorite topic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Good job, Kazo. There were some challenges in this verse.
Ah, thank you, Pastor Tim.
So, all right, we'll keep moving forward. Noor, I'm going to give you verse, or have you gone yet, Noor? You haven't yet, right? I'm going to give you verse 13. Go ahead and read it, and then identify the connector words that you see.
Hold to the standard of sound words which you have heard from me, in the faith and love which are in Christ Jesus. So connector words to.
All right, we'll talk about this one in a little bit. But
Okay.
tell me, see if you see any more.
Of.
Of, what kind of connector word is of?
Is proposition.
Yes. Notice it is one of the common ones here.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to put preposition over the top of it. Okay, you had hold to, I'll put a preposition there. Of. Okay, any others that you see?
Which.
Very good. What kind of connector word is that one?
Conjunction. Conjunction.
Okay, take a
Yeah,
look. Look at our list over here.
Relative pronoun.
Yeah, remember what, which are going to be relative pronouns. All right. Okay. And it is similar to a subordinating conjunction because relative pronouns are also followed by dependent clauses. And
Okay.
so, but they're not the same kind of connector word. All right. Any others?
Which you have heard from.
Yes. What kind of connector word is from?
From me. Is it conjunction? So,
Well, okay. Remember, if it's a conjunction, it would have to be either coordinating, and it's not a coordinating, and boy, so it's not one of those. Then it must be subordinating. If it's a subordinating conjunction, it's followed by a clause. Is this followed by a clause?
no.
No. So it's got to be a preposition.
Preposition.
Okay. Which you have heard, and it will modify heard because it's telling us where you heard from me. So, okay.
Then. And.
Very good. What is that? What kind of connector word is and?
And boy, that is conjunction.
Yes, coordinating.
Coordinating conjunction.
All right.
We have another which.
Yes, we do. And
Yeah.
same thing again, relative pronoun.
And pronoun.
All right, very good. Any more?
And. Oh.
I see one more. Actually repeated here twice.
Is it in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And.
What kind of connector? What kind of connector word is that?
In.
If you remember a with boot here,
Yeah,
it's
and or
yeah. So it is one of the prepositions there, one of the common prepositions. All right, so we'll do in, it's preposition,
in Christ. Another
in Christ Jesus. Yep. And again, preposition. Okay. That's all that I see here. Now, I wanted to make a comment about hold to. All right.
hold.
There are a certain kind of words that I had, certain kind of verbs that I didn't really go into with you guys during class yet because they are a special case, but we do see them, particularly in the New American Standard Translation. Tends to use, and they're called prepositional verbs. What does that mean? It means that it's a verb, but it includes a preposition in the verb. Yes, one more wonderful thing to have to know about to navigate, to understand connector words. But I didn't want to bring it up until now. I'm going to send you, I'll send you a detail, like a handout that talks about these. But it is really an English idiom where there are certain verbs that sometimes will be followed by a preposition, and it's part of the verbal idea. That's just the way the English language has evolved, is that there are sometimes these expressions that it's a verb, and it's the form is a verb followed by a preposition. So it's opposite to infinitives. Remember, an infinitive is the preposition to followed by a verb. In this case, prepositional verbs have next to them, they're a verb, and then it's followed by a preposition. So, for example, here, what we see is, in this case, hold to. All right? So it's not, so hold to is the entire verbal idea here. It's not just hold, it's hold to. So,
Pastor Tim,
yes.
how about if it's holding to? Same idea. Holding to.
Holding to, yeah, in that case would be probably a participle. But yeah, to would go with holding. There's another way to translate it, and I think you see this. Let me look it up. I'll show this to you here. Let me do this. Let me show you. All right, I'm going to pull up Bible Hub. I'm going to pull up our good friend, the interlinear. All right, so I'm going to go to interlin. And then wait, and then I'm going to look up, okay, that was 2 Timothy 1, I think 13, right? 2 Timothy, oh, come on. 2 Timothy 1, and click for the chapter. All right, now I'm going to zoom in here, expand it a little, and then let's go down to verse 13, I think it was. Uh-oh, went a little too fast there. Okay, so here, notice, all right, the pattern, first word here, retain of sound words. So retain is the verb here. Notice it's a verb, imperative. So you could also say hold to. But here, retain, notice there's no, that's really the idea, is retain, keep, conform to, hold to. All right, those are all the translation of this particular verb. But notice here, retain is one way to translate it. And notice there's no verb of, there's no preposition following it. This is just a regular verb. Okay, retain the pattern of sound words. So when we look at the translation, hold to, or we could say retain. Now, if they had said retain, we wouldn't have this discussion. We wouldn't be talking about these prepositional verbs. All right. But some translations will use these prepositional verbs. So if I show you this, I'll just show you the translations here. The ESV, verse 13, notice it says follow. Okay, it doesn't have hold to in this case. It just says follow. Okay, that's a legitimate translation. Let's see what the New King James does. The New King James says hold fast. Okay, that's an older way to say it. The NIV says, what you have heard from me, keep. And then, of course, the New American Standard has retain. And then LSB put hold to. Okay, in every case, those are all verbs. But notice one option, one possibility at times in English, it may be a prepositional verb, meaning there are some English verbs that have a preposition in them also, just because that's how the language has evolved. And so you don't say it doesn't say hold the standard of sound words. We could say that though. Hold to actually is a complete verbal idea in English. All right. I don't really know an easy way to have you check for this, except to look in the interlinear. And you'll just see, as we looked at here, just the verb here, retain, there's no preposition here. Okay, there's no preposition in Greek. Now, there is of sound. Okay, of is a preposition, but that's a not part of the verb here. Okay, there's no preposition to around here. Okay, but one way in English to translate the verb eke is hold to, or keep, or guard, follow, retain. Those would all be possible translations for this word. So what you will see, and I've noticed this especially with the New American Standard translation and the Legacy Standard, is they do like to use these prepositional verbs more often. What I will do, I know this is just one more thing to worry about. If you don't catch it, that's okay. If you just saw the preposition and noted it there, that's okay. What's going to happen is when you try to diagram it, it's going to be confusing because you're going to be going, hold, okay, to the standard. Where does to the standard go? But if you notice, if you're able to recognize, oh, maybe this is one of those prepositional verbs. Oh, let me go look at the interlinear. Ah, yeah, there's no preposition here in the sentence. So it's just one of them weird English things. That's the best I can tell you right now. It's what like I said, what I'll do is I put together like a what do you call it? Like a handout that goes through prepositional verbs. I'll post that. I'll send it to you guys after our meeting this morning. And then maybe later, if we have some time, we can go through it in more detail, look at some more examples and things like that. You won't see these so frequently that it's gonna be a problem or mess you up, but you will see them once in a while, especially if you're working with the New American Standard. If you're working with the ESV, you won't see them as much, so it won't be as cumbersome. It won't be as much a problem as it would using the American Standard. Again, just reminds us. So if we could just go directly to the Greek, I think we would not have this complication, but it's just one of the challenges with using the English text. But need to be aware of it. It's used in English all the time, in normal conversational English. We use these I am not ashamed of the gospel. Ashamed of is a prepositional verb. Both go together. They both are they're both the verb. In English, you wouldn't say, I am not ashamed the gospel. You would say, I am not ashamed of the gospel. Okay? But ashamed of is the verb. The object is the gospel. All right? So I, subject, am not ashamed of, verb, the gospel, object. Hold to, sound words. Hold to is the verb. Sound words is the object, or words. I am convinced of your salvation. Convinced of is the verb. Salvation is the object. I is the subject. In English, you wouldn't say, I am convinced your salvation. An English speaker would be confused by that. Like, that's not complete. So you would say, I am convinced of your salvation. In fact, brothers, I think we did see this earlier in our passage. I just didn't point it out at the time. No, we did not. It's I'm convinced that. Sometimes you'll see I am convinced of. All right. So if you're not following this, if this is just confusing, if you haven't heard of this before, it's okay. Don't worry about it. It's not going to make your life impossible to block diagram, but it's just an additional feature I wanted you to be aware of as you advance in your diagramming. But like I said, if you miss it, these prepositional verbs don't occur that often that it's gonna, mess up everything for you. All right. You'll just have a little confusion when you try to diagram these prepositional verbs if you don't notice that it's a prepositional verb. So for example, if you're looking at, hold to the standard of sound words, you're going to be going, okay, hold, and then, to preposition. Okay, now how does that modify hold? I don't know. So it'll just be confusing. But if you recognize, hold to is the verb, then standard is the object. Hold to, verb, the standard, object. Which standard? Of sound words. That goes under standard. Okay. All right. So again, if you're didn't follow that closely, or if it doesn't make sense, I'll send you the handout on that, and then maybe if there's opportunity in a future session, I can go through that with you guys if you want. Okay, but for now, let's just leave it at that. I'll make you aware of. In fact, I don't think. Well, you know what? Guess what? Aware of. There's one. Okay. Who are in Asia turned away. There's one. From me.
Ashamed of.
There it is. Ashamed of. Yep. The Lord grant to him. Now, again, you'll notice, okay, well, there's grant and then to, but no, it's to him. So this is a preposition in this case. Grant is the verb, and then to him tells us where he granted. So it's just certain kinds of verbs. You'll see examples in the handout I give you. I'm just trying to find any others. So just so you can see, they don't happen that often that you have to worry about this. Not seeing any more right away. So it looks like just there's only a couple here that we have in this passage. Okay. All right. So I'll just put underneath prepositional prep verb. Okay. And I won't highlight it because that's for the infinitives. Okay, let's keep going. Brilio, have I had you do it yet?
Yes, sir. Wala pa. No, sir.
No.
It
Okay.
is my turn.
Verse 14.
Verse 14. Guard through the Holy Spirit who dwells in us, the treasure which has been entrusted to you. Through, sir, professional praise at preposition. True.
Okay, guard through. Very good. It's preposition. And now it's not a common, it's not one of the top 9 most common, but it is fairly common. We've already seen it once here earlier, right? Through the gospel. Back in verse 10. Okay, very good.
Then in us, in preposition.
Yep, another preposition.
Then the treasure which
Which,
relative pronoun.
very good. Relative pronoun. RP.
To you.
Okay,
Preposition.
to preposition. All right, and then any others? I see one more.
It seems, sir.
Can you find it? Do you see it?
Who, sir? Who?
Who? There you go.
Ooh,
Relative pronoun.
Exactly. All right, very good. Now we might notice, I see it. Entrusted, ed ending, is that a participle? Well, notice what's in front of it. There's a verb of being.
Yes, sir.
Okay, subject which has been entrusted is my verb, and it's past tense. Okay. Well, Anselmo, you did so well on that one. Let me give you one more verse. Go ahead and do verse 15.
Verse 15. You are aware of this, that all who are in Asia turn away from me, among whom are Pygilius and Hermogenes. Hermogenes, how to pronounce?
Yes.
Then preposition, sir, is in Asia, in.
Yes. Preposition.
Then from me, from preposition.
From preposition.
Then among preposition. Then home, relative pronoun.
Very good.
Then and, coordinating conjunction.
Very good. And boy, one of the coordinating conjunctions. And then as I already mentioned, we had prepositional verb here turned away. I see one more. It's the same one you missed in verse 14.
Verse 14.
Yeah, it's the same connector word in
Oh,
verse
sorry.
15. Oh, yeah, there you go.
Relative pronoun.
All right. Okay, very good. Excellent. Now remember, guys, we're doing this because the next step in the diagram process will be to break up or separate all of the phrases and clauses in the passage. And so these connector words are what are the separators. They are where we're going to break each phrase and clause. So doing this step is showing us where each phrase and clause is located in the passage. And then after that, we take each phrase and clause, put it under the word it modifies. All right, so we're just in that second step. We're identifying the other phrases and clauses. The way we do that is looking for these connector words. All right, Pastor Arn, your turn. Thank you, Bridio. Excellent job. Pastor Arn, we're going to give you I'm going to give you verses 16 and 17 since they're both kind of short.
Verse 16, the Lord give mercy to the house of Onesiphorus, for he often refreshed me and was not ashamed of my chains. But when he was in Rome, he eagerly searched for me and found me. The Lord give mercy to
Yes.
preposition.
Yes.
And then for he often refreshed, for is preposition.
Okay, for. All right, for is a connector word here. Now, if it's a preposition, what is going to follow it? A phrase or a clause?
Close.
For a preposition followed by a clause. Conjunction followed by
conjunction. Sorry.
Preposition followed by a phrase. Conjunction followed by a clause. Hey, a good way to remember that, guys, is this. Preposition is followed by a phrase. Now, what letter begins the word preposition? What's the first letter of preposition?
P.
P.
P is for praise.
And then notice the first letter of phrase, P. Conjunction, subordinating conjunction is followed by a clause. Notice.
Close.
Conjunction, C, clause, C. See that? That's a way to remember. Okay. So in this case, for is it followed by a phrase?
Conjunction.
Yes, in this case, it's a subordinating, conjunction. It's not one of and boy. All right.
Okay, thank you.
All right, good. Very good. Let's
And then
whoops. Let me scoot this over a little bit. Okay, let's get down here. The rest of verse 16. Do you see any more?
or he often refers and
Yeah.
Conjunction, coordinating.
Coordinating. Whoops, what happened here?
Then off. Preposition.
Wait a minute. What's happening?
Okay.
Sorry, let me fix something here. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Now remember, here we had this example, ashamed of, where this is one of those prepositional verbs.
I see. Okay.
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 Okay, there's one more. There is an of that's a preposition up here. House of Onesiphorus. Okay. Great. Now verse 17.
Verse 17. But conjunction, coordinating.
Yes, sir. Very good.
And then in.
Okay. Good. In.
Preposition.
All right.
And then is for.
Okay, and in this case, is it a preposition or a conjunction?
Preposition, because it's not followed by clause.
That's right. It's followed by a phrase. In this case, phrase is just one word, me, a noun.
Okay. And then the last one is and coordinating for
Very, very good.
conjunction.
And in this case, the and is connecting to, it's connecting a verb and an object. So it searched for me and found me. Okay.
I see.
So that this conjunction is connecting those two clauses. All right.
Thank you,
Great.
Pastor.
Very good. Very good. Okay. Now, it may seem like, I don't know if you guys feel like this, but some of you may feel like, well, boy, it sounds like we're not doing very well. Pastor Tim keeps giving us instruction on every verse and different things. Actually, you guys are doing great. I'm highlighting certain things. But for the most part, you're seeing most of the connector words. Okay. I'm just trying to give attention to some of the more complicated elements just to keep. So that's why we're going through this, just so we see different things. And the more times we talk about this and go through it, the more I can show you some of the more complicated things. But you guys are catching most of them. All right. So that's good. So I just don't want you to feel like, oh man, we're making a mistake again, or I missed that one again. You're catching most of them, guys. So that's great. So I hope you don't feel like you're not making progress, because you really are. All right. Okay. What do we got time-wise? Let's do a couple more verses. All right. You guys want to do that? Just try a couple more. We're almost through chapter 1, actually. We've almost finished 1/4 of your assignment. So let's keep going. Before we do that, anybody have any questions on what we've done to this point?
Can I insert, sir?
Of course, certainly. Yeah.
The verbal phrase, where we place that in our sub points, like for example the above verse.
Okay.
Another sub points during diagramming.
Okay, give me an example of the verbal phrase that you see here that you're asking about.
The first one, aware of, hold on, hold to.
Oh, the prepositional verb, you mean?
Yep, sir. Another sub points every diagram, sir.
Yeah. These prepositional verbs, you treat both the words hold to as the one verb. It's the whole verbal idea. So yeah, it is a verbal phrase almost, because it's more than one word. But so what you would do in the diagram for this is hold to is my verb. You is the subject, right? Because this is like a command.
Yes.
Here, let's do this. All right, let's just diagram this. So you is the implied subject because it's a command. So you, subject, hold to, verb, the standard object. So that is my independent clause. Of sound words, that goes to standard. Which standard? What kind of standard? Standard of sound words. Where does which you have heard? Again, we're breaking it up at each connector words. Sound words. Which sound words? The ones which you have heard. Let me. There we go. Which you have heard, and then where have you heard them? From me. But notice for the, and then I just underline the verbs. So I'm underlining the verbs here. Notice one verb is hold to. The other is have heard. All
Thank
right.
you, sir.
All right. This is how. So which, which standard or what kind? And then which words and where. Okay. The other one we saw here, prepositional verb, was
The lower portion, sir.
all who are in Asia turned away from me. Okay, I'll just diagram this quickly for you. Okay. All is my subject. Who modifies all. All right, who are in Asia. Okay, this has got a couple of interesting things for us to take note of. One is, here we have a dependent clause inserted between the subject, all, and the verb turned away. So all turned away is my clause here, my independent clause. All turned away. Who are in Asia modifies all. So the who. Okay. Turned away is my verb. From me is modifying turned away. And is telling it where he turned away. From me. Okay, and then sometimes what I like to do when I have a clause that's broken up is I'll put a line here that's just telling me all right. So that's what that'll look like. And then let me underline the verbs. So turned away is the verb. R is a verb. Oh, I should have put in Asia underneath R, but I'll leave it like this. Okay. So when you are diagramming, if you notice the prepositional verb, when you're diagramming it, just treat both words as one verb. It's all part of the verb. So hold to, turned away. Okay. Any other questions? All right. Why don't we do this? We'll do one more verse. We'll just finish up chapter 1 here. Okay. I'll do let's do verse 18. And that'll be good. Then we'll have done a whole chapter from 2 Timothy as far as your assignment goes. So with that, let me ask Kazot, you are the big winner today. You get a second passage, second verse to
Verse
do.
18,
Yes, sir.
verse 18, Pastor Tim. The Lord grant to him to find mercy from the Lord on that day. And you know very well what services he rendered at Ephesus. The Lord.
All right. Do you see any
Oh.
connector words?
There's two.
Yeah. What is that? What kind?
We'll have to test it, Pastor Tim.
Yeah. Okay. What's the test?
Preposition.
Yeah. And how do I know it's a preposition and not an infinitive? What do I look for?
A phrase.
Yeah. What follows it?
Is a noun. So it's
Yeah.
not a preposition.
It is a preposition. A verb
Preposition.
would
Yes,
be
that's Pastor Tim,
okay.
because it's a noun.
Okay.
Then to find, Pastor Tim.
All right. So yeah, we have another two here. Looks like a preposition, but the word find,
It's a verb.
that's a verb. So in this case, it's not. It's an
Preposition.
infinitive.
Infinitives.
Okay.
So from Pastor Tim, preposition. Then on, preposition.
Yes.
How about that, Pastor Tim?
Okay. So here's on that day. So notice it comes right before this noun. It's not on which day, it's on that day. It's a particular
That day.
day. So it's modifying day. So in this case,
Yes, Pastor
that
Tim.
is an adjective.
Adjective. And Pastor Tim,
Yes, sir.
coordinating conjunction.
Yep.
At Ephesus, at preposition.
Okay. Now, one thing, you got them all. Excellent job. Like I said, you got all of them that time, except the one tricky one was to find. All right. Now notice we have rendered, ed ending. So we might, sometimes you might think, oh, is that a participle? Well, there's a couple of things, guys. Whenever you see verbs that end in ed, they're very, most of the time it's going to just be a regular verb, past tense. Okay? Most of the time. Assume that first. Okay? And in this case, notice we can test it by saying what's in front of it? He. That's the subject. He rendered. Okay, so it's a regular verb, past tense. So don't get, if you see that verb with the ed ending, the first thing you should think is past tense verb, regular verb. It could be a participle, but you just run the test through in your mind quickly. Okay, what's in front of it? Is there a verb of being? No. Is there a subject? Yes. Or is there an article? No article, but there is a subject. He rendered. Who rendered? He rendered at Ephesus. All right. So it's more than likely, if you have a verb that ends in ed, more than likely it's not a participle. If you have a verb that ends in ing, there's a bigger possibility that it is a participle compared to an ed one. So just generally speaking, that's an observation something I've noticed is most of the time the ed verbs are just past tense verbs. But ing, verbs with ing, it could be a participle. So that one you have to look at more closely.
So we'll just assume, Pastor Tim, that it is just a regular verb when it is past tense in the form of ed.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at chapter 1 here, if we go back and examine and just go through, I don't think there was one participle that ended in ed. If you go back even to verses 1 to 9, I don't think there was one participle. Let me check. Let's just go to the actual. I'll just pull this up. Let me look real quick. 2 Timothy chapter 1. Are there any ed participles here? There's one. Having remembered. All right. But notice having remembered, that's together, that is a participle. So both words together are the participle. And being reminded. But notice, I am convinced, that's a regular verb. Do not be ashamed, regular verb. Who saved, regular verb, past tense. Manifested, has been manifested, past tense. I was appointed, believed, convinced. Okay, all of these are, I have been entrusted, which has been entrusted, past tense, regular verb. Eagerly searched, regular verb. Rendered, regular. So out of all these 18 verses, there were 2 that were participles. And by the way, those were noted by ing verbs before in front of them. Having, remembered. Being, reminded. So it's really the having and the being that shows us it's a participle. Because in front of the having, no article, no subject, no verb of being. So it's a participle. So yes, kazot, I think generally just assume if it's an ed verb, unless there's a participle in front of it, it's more than likely just going to be a regular verb. So just assume that. And if you get it wrong, it's like I said, you would only missed 2 in the whole chapter for that. So that's pretty good. If you can capture, if you guys can find, more than 90% of the connector words, you're doing pretty good. That's going to be most, you're going to get most of the phrases and clauses right. So yeah, you'll have a few mistakes in there, but my goal, my desire is at least you guys can find 9 out of 10. If you can do that, you're doing well. And I think tonight or this morning, you guys probably hit close to that overall. So again, I think good job, great progress. And next time we gather, we'll go to the next step and we'll just come back now. Now that we've identified the connector words in chapter 1, we'll come back and start diagramming chapter 1. All right, because that's your next assignment. Assignment 5.12 is diagramming 2 Timothy. So we'll go ahead and we'll take the next couple of sessions together and just do that. We'll work through the diagram together. You'll have to do the rest of the book. We won't go through the whole book together, but we can get through a number of verses together. So go ahead and try to do the connector words for the rest of 2 Timothy. Now that we've done this, hopefully this is a little fresh in your mind. I would encourage you this week, work on that assignment. Even if you've got other ones to do, why don't you just focus on assignment 5.11 this week, the connector words assignment. It's fresh in your mind. See how, try to work through that. Just take, if you have a little time each day, or if you have a couple hours on one day, work on that assignment if you haven't done it yet. That'll be my recommendation. Okay. All right. Very good. Any other questions or comments? Any cries of pain and suffering? Any laments? Any laments you want to cry out? Yeah. How long, O Lord? How long must I suffer this English grammar? How long will I have to look at prepositional verbs? How long will I have to diagram?
Who will deliver me?
Who?
Psalm 13.
And
Who will deliver me from the body of this English grammar? Yeah. Well, hopefully, the more familiar you get with this, the better you'll be able to, read English resources, even understand them, not just for Bible, for block diagramming, but even just for comprehending, understanding the different resources that are out there in English, because there's quite a few, a lot of commentaries, a lot of articles, sermons that are in English. That the better you understand English, I think the better you'll be able to use those resources as well. Great. Well, again, guys, really pleased with the progress and good job on your part, guys. And like I said, try to get some time this week to work on the assignment since these are fresh in your mind. And any questions you have, you're always welcome to message me and ask. Okay. All right, great. I'm going to ask, sorry, was there a question there or comment? Okay.